I'm just going to run through a basic loop here and try and explain, you know, what the gameplay looks like. So you'll notice some things here. If you pause, if you hit space, you'll see we're in planning. So space will move in between planning and adventure. You can't go into planning when you're in a fight. If you're in an active fight, you have to wait for the fight to end. But you can queue up planning. You can see at the top there for when the fight ends. And that's useful because if you want to do something like, say, like place down some tiles in front of you immediately after your fight finishes, that's useful. Another thing is you'll see while I'm killing things, I have this gear accumulating on the right in my inventory. Once the gear reaches the 12th slot, if you get a new piece of gear, it just automatically gets discarded and you lose it. So new items that come in, you're going to want to equip as soon as possible because, you know, this gives me more damage and evasion. This gives me more max HP. This gives me some defense, so I take less damage. So generally, you know, if you have a slot, you want to put an item in it. And if you have new items, you can kind of consider how you want your build to be, what sort of traits you're looking for your items. So I'm going to go ahead and actually start thinking about, for my loop, where I want to put down, you know, a concentration of enemies. I like having enemies concentrated in like one of these U shapes generally, because it means you can kind of stack things around them. So if we put a grove down here, for example, I can put my blood grove here and have all the enemies that spawn in this area be affected by that 15% debuff. Another thing is you'll notice I have this treasury card here, and here's a quick tip: when you click on a treasury card, click on a card and you want to get rid of it. It took me a while to figure this out. I kept hitting escape, which is not ideal. It works, but it's not ideal. You can just click again to let go, or you can right click, which kind of, I guess you don't risk. I think you don't risk. Let's test. Yeah, you don't risk dropping it in the wrong spot. So this treasury tile, an interesting thing it shows is these meadows, they heal for 2 HP at the start of each day. You can see the day bar filling up here. So when the next day comes, I'll heal for whatever is listed here in terms of heal HP per day. But if you put a meadow next to a occupied tile, it could be a treasury, it could be a blood grove, if I could place it there, it could be a beacon, it actually becomes a blooming meadow and heals for 3 rather than 2. So you want to save your meadows and place them next to structures if you can. But you'll see here now this HP per day value that shows, and if we look at the bar here, it's about to progress. I have 318 HP, now I have 324. That's how that works. And you know, we talked about the blood grove earlier. You can see this little debuff on the slime. That was meaning they would die, you know, once they hit that HP threshold. All right, now here's an example, right? I got a ring. I don't have a ring, so obviously having a ring is better than no ring. This other stuff's all pretty much the same as what I already have, so we'll just leave it in place. And I did say I was going to stack things up here, so I'm going to go ahead and place another grove within the loop here, this U shape again, where I have my blood grove affecting a bunch of stuff. There's the auto pause. I could leave if I wanted to. I don't want to. All right, now for mountains and rocks, they're interesting because you want them grouped together. So you'll see that there's this plus 5 HP for each adjacent rock or mountain. What I like to do is just choose a corner and start slotting them together. And actually an interesting thing is when you put down 9 rock or mountain tiles of either type in the same 9 block, it creates a mountain, which gives you a big HP boost, but also spawns a heartbeat. But it's a nice way to kind of bump your max HP up from the start. So we'll go ahead and throw mountain in up here. And we're going to put the mountain in the middle so that you can get up to 4 adjacent tiles for HP boost. Although it'll be moot by the time I get there. I should have actually placed this village one further away so I could put 2 wheat fields next to it, but you know, mistakes were made. Alright, so I got a new ring here. I can compare it. 10% counter or 2 damage to all. Right now I'm only doing 7 to 11, so that's a pretty big damage boost. So I'm going to go ahead and take that and swap out the counter. Some new loot, not any higher level or higher rarity. That's another thing actually. If you look at this, the rarity goes gray, blue, yellow, orange. So sometimes say like an orange level 4 ring might be better than a blue level 5. You'll have to look at the stats, but that's something to consider. It's not always just that the number's higher that means it's better. Ooh, got a vampire mansion. So we'll throw that down, get another grove in there. So this is going to be my kind of spicy, really spicy part of the loop where I'm fighting a lot of monsters. Another thing is you can mouse over the monsters, see, you know, their health, their attacks per second, any sort of traits they have. So these all have 10% vampirism because there's a vampire fighting with them. But the vampires drop nice loot, so I usually throw them in there and try and get them as many fights as possible in the hopes that I'll get items with vampirism. Like this, for example. So a piece of armor that gives me 10% of all my damage done back in health, and I found that HP is a major kind of constraint. So this is an interesting case where this shield's level 1, but it's, let's call it epic level. I think I'm going to keep the level 3 shield because the defense is so much higher, but it gives me 2 magic damage, 4 attack speeds. That's actually, you know, it's a pretty compelling thing to consider. Another advantage of bundling together all these tiles like this is when I put down a beacon or something like that, you can actually cover quite a few, you know, of the tiles that you're fighting on. So if you want to like if you want to pack things together, you can. And I can put down this lantern, try and avoid having too many enemies fight me at the same time. Those are all advantages of having stuff all in the same place. It also makes for a higher density of enemies in the same area, which can be risky sometimes. You'll notice another thing is when you're looking at items that come up, the default setting is for the game to auto-pause when you do that, which is nice. You know, if you're trying to quickly swap in a piece of new gear you got and you're in a pretty risky fight, you don't have to worry about just outright dying because you were too slow to make your decision. Not that you have that much control over what's going on, but still, you know, you might want to make that decision quickly. So we're going to keep putting down rocks here, and you'll see in a bit how it turns into a big mountain and spawns a harpy. But you'll get a sense of like what sort of tiles you might want to save to place together in a group or place together as you run through the loops, and kind of get a sense of like how you kind of want to set up your loop that you're running. So here, you know, I'm comparing this ring, this level 2 ring versus the 1 blue, and I think I'll keep the blue just because I like that damage. Regen per second I don't need as much. I've already get 10% vamp from the things that I'm using. But I will go ahead and put down another. Ooh, nice! That scarecrow gave me some good loot. I will go ahead and put down another lantern. And since I have groves all over the place, I can kind of chain my blood grove coverage throughout the map, which is kind of cool. That'll be helpful. So I'm actually holding on to this meadow. I like to place my meadows next to the treasuries, but I may actually throw it down earlier. This ring is clearly better. This rapier gives me 11% vamp. I'll take that. A little bit less damage, but and armor, 10% vamp, 2 magic damage, 2 defense. I'm still figuring out exactly what stance I want, but I kind of like the fact that I have 30% lifesteal. So we'll leave it at that and see how things go, how helpful it is in terms of letting me progress. Alright, this is an example where I actually wanted to place that village tile, but I've gotten to another fight too quickly, so what I should have done was press space to go to planning. And you'll notice I just actually passed the threshold for XP and got a level, so I'm paused now. I can go ahead and choose one of these traits. So this one is good for the moment if I need it. Right now I'm pretty full on HP. I don't really want to wipe my whole hand out. I could play out all my cards and then do it. First attack, stun each enemy for one. I kind of like this idea of stunning enemies. So we'll go ahead and pick that up. And we'll complete this mountain. So now I have a mountain peak. There's only one mountain peak so far that I've seen that gets created, so with the rest of your rocks or mountains, I normally just use them as filler in places around them. I'll go ahead and just put these meadows down for extra healing. Throw a village here in the middle of this loop. Give me a little bit more sustain when I'm moving through it. So those are kind of like the basics of running a loop. And you'll get a feel for how to play structures or what kind of gear you like. Maybe you like evasion a lot or countering a lot, or maybe you have a class that's better for one thing than the other. Yeah, just be mindful of the different benefits of having certain tiles set up in certain ways. And then making those gearing decisions and knowing when to retreat and preserve your resources for another run, rather than just continuing onward and making an unnecessary risk of losing more resources than you would have gotten otherwise if you'd gotten out earlier. Or maybe you don't care about losing and you're happy getting your 30%. You just want to see how far you can push. I know for me, I like getting those resources so I can start building buildings, getting stronger, and employing different strategies. So yeah, that's it. Just a short little description of my approach and what I've learned so far about